Hi, good afternoon. I call to order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. The first order of business is the approval of the August 28th, 2024 and September 11th, 2024 minutes. Are there any additions or corrections?
Yeah, I have on the August meeting on page 6, about three paragraphs from the bottom. There was a comment I had made, and it has Dave Pratt in there as well. So that probably should be corrected. Where is it? You'll see it when you look at it. It starts with Commissioner Rogers and then Dave's reference later down there.
So you're saying Commissioner Pratt should take it out?
Yeah,
It's on the August.
August. Mhm.
Any other corrections? Do we have a motion to approve with the correction? Motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next order of business is the following new business, where we will consider the petition of Maddox and Sons Construction, Inc. to amend the future land use map from institutional and neighborhood commercial to medium-density residential to rezone approximately 11 and 731 thousandths acres from R1 low-density residential district to R3C medium-density residential district conditional, and for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of 88 townhomes located at 750 Leesville Road. Rachel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of Planning Commission, as mentioned, the subject property is approximately 11.73 acres and is located at 750 Leesville Road. The property is bound to the north by single household uses, to the west by a townhome development, to the south across Leesville Road by vacant land and a residential use, and to the east by a church or former church. The property is currently zoned R1 Low Density Residential District, which was established in 1978. Our comprehensive plan recommends an institution use for this property on our future land use map. These areas include religious, educational, and other nonprofit entities in our city, examples being churches, private schools, private nonprofit hospitals, service clubs and organizations, etc. The petition proposes to amend our future land use map to medium-density residential. These areas are characterized by smaller lot, single-family detached housing, duplexes, and townhouses at densities of up to 12 units per acre. Where neighborhoods already exist, infill should be at a compatible density and housing type. In addition to residential uses, they may also include public and institutional uses compatible in scale with the single-family residential homes, and private recreation uses may also be appropriate. If the petitions are approved, the property would be developed as an 88-unit townhome development with associated parking. The concept plan is shown here. The petitioner was required to submit a traffic impact narrative as part of this petition. The findings indicated that the development entrance does not require a dedicated right turn lane or left turn lane, but a right turn taper is required and is shown and labeled on the concept plan. The city's transportation engineer concurred with the findings of the narrative. The area is also served by GLTC Route 7 with a bus stop nearby at the corner of Compson Way and Leesville Road. The proposed townhomes should have limited impacts on the surrounding area and would fit well within the existing corridor. The property is adjoining another townhome development on one side and an institutional use on the other. Although a larger setback from adjoining residential properties to the north may be preferable to those neighbors, the submitted concept plan does meet the minimum setback of 50 feet required by our zoning ordinance, and topography appears to limit those units from being located elsewhere on the site. If this is a concern for Planning Commission, that could be mitigated through an additional condition on the CUP, such as an additional evergreen buffer, fence, or other means of screening. If the future land use map amendment is approved, the proposed development would be below the density threshold recommended by our comprehensive plan, which is up to 12 units per acre in this category. The city's technical review committee reviewed the petition on September 17th. Comments were minor in nature and would be addressed prior to site plan approval, and the planning division recommends approval of the petition with the conditions or the condition and proffer outlined in the report. Thank you.
Rachel? Who is here to speak on behalf of this petition? You could come forward and state your name and sign in, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Andy Maddox. I'm with Maddox and Son Construction, and we are a local builder. We've been here since the 90s and done a number of projects you're probably familiar with. I've stood here before. They see we did a number of things back in Windhurst back in the day, and then we moved to Cornerstone, did a lot there. From there, we built the storage units next to Home Depot. We did the apartments on Old Grays Mill Road, 1125. We finished the modern on Breezewood Drive, 47 townhomes there. And we just recently finished the old Travel Lodge up the street here and converted that to condos and renamed it the Wayne. On a personal note, I was thinking about moving towards retirement, and I started looking at all the people who have been working with us for years and how much I enjoyed it. So I put out the word to look for another piece, and let's see what we can do. And our real estate agent here, he brought this to me, and I just started looking at it. And I said it kind of makes sense that we would look at doing townhomes here with Centra coming across the street. Trying to get some affordable living nowadays. Townhouses certainly somewhat fit the bill, not compared to 20 years ago, but made sense to me to take it to the next level. So we had Perkins Orson draw it for us. She mentioned Topo. It's a tough site, but we got 88 units in there, and I think it kind of lays fairly decent. When I look at Wexford next door, it's a very similar partial to where you're off of Leesville Road, kind of a family setting or neighborhood setting, and not just in high traffic area out front. So from there, we decided to move forward with TRC, like you mentioned, really no issues per se. And I mentioned that I've stood here a number of times, and it's much better to show up with your neighbors in agreement or somewhat in agreement, so you guys don't have to decide. So we decided to call a neighborhood meeting, which we did. Sent a number of letters out, met with everybody at the Hope Church next door, talked to the pastor there. Of course, he's selling the property, says he's got somebody interested. I asked him if us doing this would the buyer, potential buyer, be against it, and he said no, and he actually supported it too. Jeff with Centra is here. I talked with him. Centra talked internally. I'll let them speak for themselves, but they were there, and then a number of neighbors from Wexford, and then the neighborhood behind us also. We addressed a lot of concerns. Out of that meeting, they appointed a couple of people just to be a spokesman. We have talked and met and have an outline of proffers to be able to move forward if you see fit, that we would try to get everybody in the right place. So I've done a lot of homework. I think we're in the right place. I think we got agreement. At least we're moving in a direction on agreement. As far as the floor plan, I mentioned Breezewood Drive. We did the modern over there. There's 47 units there. They're all, or at least all but three. 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. We're going to use the same floor plan there, but probably change the elevation on the thing a little bit. So, yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we are. Any questions for me?
We might call you back up, but thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. I'll fill this out and bring it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak on behalf of this petition? And again, if you could state your name, and once Andy finishes, you can fill that piece of paper out.
Yes, ma'am. I don't like this, but I've done it 18 times in Albemarle County and city of Charlottesville. I'm the next door neighbor in the back to the proposed project. My name is Alvin Yancey. I'm on the Wexford. I'm wearing 3 hats. I'm on the Wexford Board of Directors. I am the neighbor, and I'm a retired contractor and developer in Albemarle and Charlottesville. Spot zoning is inevitable. We all know that. Development is inevitable. If you look at Leesville Road, and you look at Ward's Road, and you look at, what's the other one?
Grace Mill. Oh, great. Which
It's the other one is the other two. They're over at, anyway, the three roads that run parallel are just loaded with traffic. Leesville is real low traffic and an ideal place to put a development. So I think that he's got that in his favor. Traffic is not my concern. My concern with traffic, one concern is like it is now, we'll pull up to Wexford Place trying to get out on Leesville Road. There are very few cars, but the few cars are running up to 60, 65 miles an hour. And we don't see any police presence. So I'd rather face 3 or 4 cars running 35 miles an hour. So an increase in traffic may actually help the speed on Leesville Road. And that's kind of a stupid way to look at it, but it's true. I'm not here to plead the case of NIMBY syndrome, not in my backyard. When it's in my backyard, then I think that I'm here to support. I know I'm here to support the application because we were able to meet with Mr. Maddox and he's expressed sincere wishes to work with us. We have worked through a bunch of proffers. And it's hard to believe that somebody that's going to develop a project of 88 units, 41 feet from my back door, and when the trees mature through the proffers and the fence, I won't be able to see it. And that's huge. And that's why I've gone to bat for approving this application. We've got other proffers, and you have them. And we worked through this with a meeting with several meetings with Mr. Maddox. So I'm speaking for the neighborhood association. I've been given that authority. Anybody here that disagrees with that needs to stand and say so. The building level on this project has to be dropped somewhere between 5 and 8 feet down from where my backyard is, which requires a retaining wall. And that lowers the level of that first building that much. So without anything or any trees, I'll be looking out at an extended setback that he's agreed to in the proffers, which really helps us from where it was going to be. I'd be looking somewhere between the window and the downstairs window and the floor level of the second floor. When the trees mature, like I said before, 41 feet away, I'm not even going to be able to see it. 88 units. That also means that with that step down, I'm not looking out of my back door at a parking lot as best I can tell. So these meetings and these proffers have drastically reduced the impact on all of Wexford Place. We're not willing to, the reason we're supporting, we're not willing to play Russian roulette. We've got somebody we can work with. We've got a satisfied neighborhood. If this is declined, we don't think it's in the neighborhood's best interest because the next person that may get an application for this could be a 5-story building. So we'd rather have a bird in our hand instead of 2 in a bush. The stormwater detention, I'll only briefly mention that because I have, in development, I have some little bit of knowledge of that. We believe that the people that are below us, and stormwater damage is not affecting us whatsoever in our development. But the people below us are going to be better off because the stormwater detention of the rules and regulations of 2024 are far different than what they used to be. So the people that are below us that are having trouble now are actually going to benefit from the stormwater detention. That's just a note, and I'm sure your staff has got to take care of all the infrastructure questions. That's just, I live there, I go to church across the stream. I see the stormwater problems. I think that they're going to be reduced in the plan. I'm 80 years old, I have to take notes. I think I skipped one page.
Take your time.
As a matter of fact, I think I'm done, and we recommend approval.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. If you would sign in, Andy, if you mind giving him that piece of paper to
I'm sorry.
sign. I'm sorry, will you sign in for us, please?
Yep, and just a reminder that people speaking on behalf of the group should always identify the group so that we can allot the appropriate time. You get 10 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of a group and you're authorized to do so. If you're speaking for, as an individual, you get 3 minutes.
And who's timing?
Me.
Okay.
I've got it up on the screen.
Is there anyone else here to speak on behalf of the petition?
In favor?
Oh, sorry, in favor of this petition. My fault. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the petition? If so, come forward. And again, please state your name and sign in for us when you get a chance.
My name is Kathy Tennell, and I am here on behalf of my mom, Mary Bondurant, who lives at 400 Woodland Circle, which is directly behind the project. And we are I'm concerned for her property just because of the runoff, because she's basically, when you go out her backyard, it goes straight up the hill towards Leesville Road. And so I am very concerned about that. I'm also concerned about sewage. I wasn't able to go to the meeting that Maddox and Sons had, but I understand that they plan to tie into the sewer line that runs behind my mom's house. And we have had sewer issues once before where city sewage backed up into her home, and the city ended up paying a lot of money for that cleanup and replacement of her belongings. And I'm just really concerned about those two major things, the runoff and the sewer. And I'm also concerned about aesthetics, but that's like a minor concern. I did hear you say that they would plant some evergreens or something, which would be ideal. But those are my two main concerns. I just don't want a repeat of the issues that we have had once before. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry, what did you say her address is?
400 Woodland.
Thank you.
And do you mind signing in for us? Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
My name is David Herb. I live at 1114 Lakeview. I also own 1112 Lakeview, and I also own 1110 Lakeview, which the property runs beside. the new proposal. I don't know if, can this point? I may have to go over to the screen. This is my land right here. This is the church's land. Right? And it doesn't have it on here, but there's a retaining pond. Well, there it is, there's one, and there's another one. There's also a retaining pond, this is Wexford. There is one here, and also a smaller one here, which is, I'm not sure if they fixed it or not, but these retaining ponds cross my land. The water, all the water crosses my land from Wexford Apartments. They frequently, the pictures that I'm showing you right now are from about 2 inches of rain in a couple hours. That water, when it crosses my backyard, it's right on top of the sewer line, the city sewer line. This water, when it reaches a certain level, like in one of the pictures where it's going down, it looks like a waterfall and it goes under the swing, that part circles around to the back of 112 and comes right up in the back door. I've had that basement sealed, and you can't stop water from coming in a door. It actually comes up 2 or 3 inches on the back door. If we get a lot of rain, I get a lot of water. It comes right into the basement. The water that's coming from Wexford, which is coming down, it crosses, I would say about 5 houses there. It crosses the backyard. This is also where the city sewer line runs. This is eroding away. I've seen it in just the time that I've been there, erode away almost a foot. I don't know if anybody from the city is going to go out and look at it, but there's going to be a serious problem if that erodes down to that sewer pipe. We're going to have sewer going all over the place. This water goes into Lakeland, which is our lake for the Lakeland Association. This is filling in with sediment. The sediment that has come down there so far it's not going to be long. It's going to be like over here at Lynchburg College. Something's going to have to be done. It's probably going to eventually have to be filled in. It's going to have to do away with the lake. It's just getting too much sediment in there.
So I think that's the alarm. Yeah.
I'm with the Lake Cleveland Association.
Oh, okay. Did you see that?
Are you speaking on behalf?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which association?
Lakeland Association.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, the current codes, now this is just for the Wexford apartments, the current codes are inadequate, even though they're following the codes. That water still comes down across there. Now, when we talk about adding more apartments, their codes are going to be up to date. It's still going to be inadequate. To say that it's going to help the runoff is absurd. Right where they have the retaining pond, that's a saturated area. There's 2 or 3 springs in that area. That water goes into the creek and then it goes to a wetland. Half of my property is a wetland. I want to show one more photo here. Now, this is kind of hard to see, but up toward the top, this is the Wexford Apartments. That's the edge of their property, where right beyond that is the pavement. There's not a week or two goes by that this water that's coming off of there goes into the creek. The creek goes across my land. I'm all the time finding water bottles, cans, food line bags, styrofoam. I clean out that creek every time I go down through there. It comes back down, and that's where it's coming from. It's coming right off the pavement. It's not hitting the top retaining pond up here at Wexford. This bottom retaining pond has about halfway down this property. I'm gonna have to go back over here. There is a ravine. There's a ravine about right here. And there is water that does come out of that. That water comes out of there from this area and across into the woods. Now over in here, this goes up, after the 50-foot setback, it still goes up another 40 feet up. I don't get any water that comes down off here. It comes down off this bank. It's retained in this area. You can start. Now you can have roads that are going to start back there. If you're going to give a 50-foot barrier, and then it still goes up another 40 or 50 feet, are you going to take bulldozer and cut down 40 feet so that water runs back up to the retaining pond? I don't see how that's going to happen. The contours is kind of hard to see, but from where it says unit 7, well, it'd be the third unit up. That's right where around the area where it starts leveling off, where it starts. You still need to go downhill from there. But if you put 11 acres of concrete pavement, there's no way that water is going to come back up to that retaining pond. And in the meeting, he said something about that retaining pond is just going to dissolve like a drain field on a sewer. That's already saturated. I don't see how it's going to dissolve. You got 90% humidity. How is that going to resolve? How is that going to dissolve? That water is going to have to go down into that wetland. You got an already saturated area in there. When we get 4 inches of rain in a couple hour period, that water really comes down there, even worse than those pictures right there. The lake, it's not going to be long. That's going to be all filled in. We're getting more and more runoff, more and more storm runoff down into that lake down there. Right now, we're currently have repairs being done to the dam itself. It costs each of us homeowners $1,200 to come up with the money to have the pond or the lake, the drain pipe needs to be fixed. Ron could probably tell us more about the drain pipe being fixed. He's the president of it. But I'm just completely opposed to these units going up here. I think the city needs to take a better look at this and think a little bit more about the amount of storm water coming off of here. It's already bad from Wexford Apartments. I don't see how this is going to help in any way the stormwater situation. No, that's all I have.
Thank you. Did you sign in for us?
Okay, awesome.
Is there anybody else here to speak in opposition to the petition? Please come forward and state your name. And if you're representing a group, identify the group, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Ferringer, and I live at 402 Woodland Circle, which is not on that. You can't see it on that map, but it's right off of the map, and it's right up from Dave and Kathy, we live all in that area behind the property, connected to the property there. And I've lived there for about 18 years now. I bought in, it was all residential area at that time. It was one of the nice features was the fact that we had so many trees. You know, that place that has tons of oak trees and stuff like that, and one of the few places in the city that has those. And when they do start removing all those trees, you know, and it's their property, they can do what they want with it, but it does adjoin my property. I've had the luxury, I guess you would say, of having that privacy for so many years. I may no longer have it, but the removal of, if they're going to go 50 feet when I'm used to a half a mile, basically, it looks like, of privacy, it's going to make a big impact on our neighborhood and stuff like that. Now, as far as new tree growth and stuff like that, the maturity of a tree, I don't know if I'm going to mature that quickly, but a tree can take a long time to grow. And I don't know if, you know, removing the oak trees and stuff like that is a real good thing to do. And as far as the water runoff and stuff like that, it does directly from Wexford Apartments, which is going to be adjacent to where they are. Their overflow right now runs directly into my property. They have a drain pipe that comes out the back of their property. Nice rock, nice plastic and stuff like that underneath there. But it literally has run a rut through for the last 6-7 years. And I have about a 18-inch deep by 6-foot wide rut going through my property. Down 4 more places, Mr. Erb's place, who just spoke, and into that creek. And I've addressed this with the city council a few years ago. They were doing, rezoning on another piece of property off of Leesville. And we talked about that. There's a continuance. We came back and they said they were grandfathered in because of the holding ponds, that they no longer required to keep them. But it don't say my property. And the new ones may not, you know, directly affect my property as far as the water draining off and stuff like that. But I do know it will affect the lake. And I am a member of the lake, and I'm the president of that lake association. As Dave was mentioning, we are in the process of having to do some modifications to the dam. And it's the quality of water, the sediment that is getting into it. It's going to be, I also talked to the folks at Timberlake. So, you know, I know there's had to be some sediment removal from time to time that's going to have to be done. But we're a small lake, very small lake. It's probably 8 acres at the most. And so there's only 100 members. And so it's costly, you know, and when they said affordable housing too, is starting at $285,000. I did not pay, nobody in our neighborhood paid $285,000. So I don't know affordable housing, what that means exactly. But anyway, it costs a lot of money to keep that going.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to the petition?
My name is Michael Harrison. I'm the owner of 752 Leesville Road, which is right next door to where this project is going to be. Like to thank Maddox and Sons. They're nice guys. I like every last one of them. I don't want any of them taking what I'm going to say personally. My big concern is, and I'm not totally opposed to this project going in, but I do want to make the city very aware that the traffic on that road is horrendous. I come in the morning from Bedford County to go down and turn into my place of business, and I'm watching my rearview mirror the whole time I'm making a left-hand turn. There are no stoplights, nothing to slow anybody down, and people have almost clipped me a number of times, and I'm looking for somebody to rear end me at any moment. So to put these townhouses in at the present moment, the way that road stands right now, a lot of people are going to have to make left-hand turns into that place. And it's just going to increase the odds that somebody's going to have a terrible accident right there. Somebody's going to get rear-ended. knocked over into the other lane and have a head-on collision, and a lot of people are going to die. And all I'm asking the city to do is please take a look at that before y'all approve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition to the petition? Okay, at this point, the public hearing is closed, and the commissioners can now ask their questions to city staff or the petitioners. Sure. There's been a request for maybe a rebuttal to some of the points that were brought up.
I don't know if it's fair that I hold a board here. I don't want to exclude them, but it's easier for me to point here, if that makes sense to you guys. First of all, I would never take it personal. So this is just a job. So I appreciate you guys. So the lady had concern for her mom as far as aesthetics. What would it look like? Not only we're required, but we want to, we would put in a buffer of trees there. And usually that's Leland cypresses. And I don't know what the standard is to put them in, but we usually, as soon as we grade, we put them in 4 to 6 feet tall. By the time we finish, they're headed towards 8 feet tall. So yes, you're going to lose trees, and I understand that concern because they're oaks and that type of thing, but it's the guy that's selling the land, that's his right to sell the land or cut trees or whatever. So I'm very concerned here. We're required to do it along the single family side and along this side. Part of the proffers that we're working with Wexford is we're going to run trees this way and behind the gentleman that just spoke just recently. So we got a lot of trees going around the property to address concerns of what it's going to look like and taking out the trees. One of the things that we've discussed with Wexford is we don't need this retaining wall up against the line. That's what Mr. Yancey was referring to, is moving it back as far as we can, leaving mature trees in there. This is a little bit off there. We're about 20-some feet, 22 feet back, retaining wall, Leland cypresses, and then existing trees to be left along this side. As far as the water retention, I can't speak for what's around me, but I have looked at the pond at Wexford. It does grab the water that's directed to it. It's in decent shape. It's in good shape. It does have the ability to slowly let it out, which is up to standard, certainly for the late 90s. It's there, but standards are certainly different now. I think a lot of the water that comes down over top of the sewer line, as he referred, but between the back of the houses are coming. It's just a natural ravine that's coming there, not only through this away, but also across the land that we have in question here. And I don't have it yet, but I'm going to get it to the neighbors there behind me. This whole area, if you look at topo, we're at like 930 here and 900 in the bottom where the creek is. So that's why we're cutting down here and moving the dirt to this side. But to answer his question, can we capture all that water? We're required to catch all that water. So we'll take it down, and because we're taking it from here to our retention pond here, which is somewhere in the 900s, and we're going to probably be in the 930s here. It's captured, as you know, with DIs and underground retention, not retention, but piping, taking it to the pond. So in my opinion, and I think the city will agree, that if I take off this much water that's flowing in their direction, not only will it alleviate the erosion, but also the standing water, and I'm carrying it back here, I'm capturing it in a pond. It might be wetlands down to the bottom. That's where the creek kind of comes through this way, and that's why we left that undeveloped. But we'll be above the creek, and we'll catch the water in the pond and slowly release it from there as required. So I understand the concerns. It's certainly a water problem back there, but I think I'm part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Let's see, it was,
That's still sanitary sewer. Question about sanitary sewer.
the backup in the sewer, you've looked at the sewer. The capacity's there, so I'm not sure what caused it to back up, but the city would know that, but you guys ran in and fixed that. But the size is there, and it's certainly big enough for us.
Just a quick point.
Yes, sir.
Clarification. In the plan or the report here, that you're speaking of the on-site measures, the stormwater management note here mentions off-site measures. Is that a,
For quality,
okay.
meaning they may purchase nutrient credits
Correct.
to,
Yeah.
but all the physical water would be mitigated
Right,
on
okay.
site.
And you have two facilities, it looks like on the map for this,
For the
for the stormwater management, yeah. It looks like there's two, there's one that's shaped like an L and there's one that's round.
So what's the L-shaped one right here?
It's a
The
pond.
pond right
It's
there.
another pond.
That's for this side.
Okay,
So
yeah,
we're on both
that's
sides.
what, yeah, okay,
Right, there's a stream here. So
okay,
you have
yeah,
water from both sides.
Right.
Two facilities.
okay.
Is that the stream that goes into the lake?
I guess eventually it makes it that way. It's just a natural draw. You can see it in the topo if you can. It comes through here and then works its way. And then there's a creek. That's why we got all these lines. There's a creek here too. So a lot of that captures here, but also it's still running down the hill in both directions, which I think is putting a lot of water in the back of their yards. So again, I think I'm part of the solution of capturing and slowing it down and slowly releasing instead of having a 2 or 4 inch rain dump in his backyard.
The proffers that were made for the neighbors, that for the people that you met with, obviously the trees, you decided in maybe moving the retention wall, but was there anything else that was
Well-
included in those proffers?
So we talked about leaving as many trees as possible, and we can certainly look tighter at the back of these buildings, and I need what I need to get that, to get the grade and everything too. And that was one of the concerns that we talked with Wexford, is having that wall against the line and cutting it down gave me enough dirt with a little bit of excess to make sure that the site balances. Now, we pushed it away from the line as far as we can, and we hope that we don't need excess dirt, but I'm certainly willing to work with the neighbors to move that wall as far as we can that way, and then pray that we have enough dirt to make it. So the wall going in, the fence for safety is a proffer, the single row of Leland cypresses, they didn't want them staggered because didn't want to take out more trees, just to get more trees in. Put the trees in. I've agreed to work with them as far as clean up at the end. If it's, hopefully this thing, if it goes through, will be great in the summertime, which a lot of times it's dry and dusty. So if their buildings end up muddy or just dusty, whatever, I'll certainly step in and clean those. I don't know that that'll show up in the city proffers, but that'll be an agreement with us. They were concerned about their pool here. Does that get dirty or whatever? I'll certainly clean that up, and whether it's an agreement through the city or with them, I'm willing to step up and do that. The neighbors behind us here, I've already, put the trees in. I don't know what else I could do. I can't go in, and I don't think it's right to require me to go in to update Wexford's pond or anything like that, but I can certainly do what I need to on my property to enhance theirs, but allow us to develop at the same time.
You said these are for sale in the 200s.
Well, they're going to be, I mentioned that we just sold out the Modern over on Breezewood Drive. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it's 289 to 300. Is that right? So we were selling the interior units around 289 and the end units at 300. 47 I'd mentioned, all of those were sold within about 4 or 5 months. Affordable housing, yeah, I get it. I've been in this business for 35 years, and when I started, it was building houses in right at 100. But yeah, there you go. Today it's the 100 back then is the 300 now. So yeah, things cost. Things are very expensive. You got to see budgets here in the city. It's crazy.
If somebody proposed this next to where you live,
Mm-hmm.
what would your position be?
That's an interesting question. I try to, in every situation, put myself in everybody else's shoes. What would I think there? And that's what leads me to, right off the bat, go straight to a neighborhood meeting. All right, hey, I'm coming. I think I'm coming. I want to come. And I even told them in the meeting, you can ask them that if this thing does not go through, there's no hard feelings, But what would be my concerns? Not in my backyard, is always, that's just human nature, I think.
Why not?
What's that?
I mean, why would you not want it in your backyard?
Well, I mean, I think my point was, I think initially people don't like change. I think that's a human nature. And they don't, if they wrap their head around change, then it's, okay, I'm okay with change, but I don't want you to do it in my backyard because, and like the gentleman said, he's had the oak trees there for 18 years. He's been looking at the trees for 18 years. Well, that's great, but to be fair and to be frank, if he wants the trees, he should be looking at buying the land. I don't think it's fair to the guy that's selling the land to say, no, you can't develop this because I like to look at the trees. Okay, well, there's a way to mitigate that too, which through ordinances, especially with R1, that you have to put in trees. I don't know how I would feel, so I think I would be concerned, but I think I would certainly be open to understanding that the city has a requirement, an obligation to grow the city in a responsible way. But you also have to have this balance that you have to not only grow the city, but you have to take the concerns of the citizens too. So, and that's my hope, that we have at least most of it or all of it worked out before we get to you, or especially city council.
Yeah, you and I spoke a little bit about this before and tried to emphasize it. Nothing I asked was going to be personal.
Right.
I come on here to ask some hard questions. Part of the reason I was.
Right. Yeah, that's a fair question. That's really good.
Technical issues aside, I absolutely believe in private property rights. Cities and zoning are a different matter, issue of smart growth and so forth. A right to develop within the zoning. Right now, it's R1. As you know, highest and best use is the thing we all shoot for when it comes to land use. The highest and best use is a relative term. And if you're talking to the landowners who live in the area, highest and best use is going to be maybe what it's zoned at now, individual houses. That's why they don't want this in their backyard. If you talk to the developer's highest and best use is to put as many units as possible on that parcel of property.
We have no choice but because of cost.
And that's your dilemma, right?
Yeah,
if you're going to develop, you have to maximize profits, which you do. You're a businessman, and that's certainly reasonable. The problem from our side is density, as I mentioned before, is a problem in the city, and trying to move away from that has been a challenge due to a lot of old school thinking. Density in the city right now is creating a number of issues. And I understand this gentleman here. He said a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, but there's nothing there right now that's going to allow a 5-story building. It's zoned it's zoned R1. It just isn't going to become anything else. But while you've had one person come out from one of the organizations, Wexford, to support it, and I respect that, and I think that's terrific. You've had 3 or 4 come out from the local resident. That's not a bad turnout considering people never show up to these things, who came out to oppose it. And the reasons are significant. There's water issues, there's tree issues, there's land issues, there's traffic issues. And I guess I'd ask you the same question that I would ask anybody putting a high density unit in on an R1 is, apart from the developer being benefited, what is the benefit, to the landowners around the area of putting this in?
The landowners around it,
That live there,
around it or in it?
around it.
It's certainly, from a tax base, it goes towards the budget and there's more money coming in. The neighbors were against me at 1125, and I'm not going to tell you how much taxes we pay at 1125. It's 228 apartments over there. Unreal, the amount of money that comes back into the city from me, or from me as an owner of that over there. The same thing here. So tax base, so taxes coming in on personal property, people living in the city, people spending money in the city, certainly goes to the bottom line somewhere, and that could certainly help address the traffic issues. Now, you mentioned old school thinking. The city is large, and there's a lot of places out there that could be developed, and I would love to develop. Boonesboro, you and I talked about Boonesboro, but like I mentioned, I've been doing this for 35 years. I would not even look at anything in Boonesboro because the answer is no.
Right.
Nobody will let you come out there and
Exactly.
do it. My son-in-law lives out there, love it. I'm building a house out that way. It's in Bedford County side, but a beautiful area. But I can't address that. That's you guys.
What's good for the goose is not good for the gander.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the basis for my question to you earlier about if it was going in next to your house.
Well,
How would you feel about it?
Let me reverse that. I sold, when my dad passed and my kids are off and married, my wife and I decided we moved downtown Lynchburg. I lived downtown for 4 years, and I loved the multifamily situation so much that's what led us to buying the Travel Lodge and converting that. We're in the Cuds building right there next to the old El Jefe, the high rise. We were in the basement of that for about 2 years, and then we moved to the Wayne. Loved that, but I got grandkids now, so we decided to move closer to them. So again, trying to answer your question, I don't have a problem with the multifamily. I've lived in it. I went from a big house to 800 square feet, and my wife's still with me. So we did go from a bath, 1 bedroom and 1 bath to a bath and a half. So, we needed to either that or marriage counseling.
I don't have any other questions for you.
All right. Well, I appreciate your question. That's an honest question. So.
Rachel, I've got a question for you, and you can stay here because obviously it affects you. But if everything you said is true and what he's doing with the stormwater retention ponds and piping it and leveling it and getting the water from basically the left side over there to the right side where it'll go down toward the creek. That sounds reasonable to me. I believe what you say, but what if it doesn't? What if it does cause more problems for the people in the surrounding neighborhoods? Can the city go back against the developer to repair whatever he's screwed up?
Have you ever had to do that?
Okay.
I said, have you ever had to do that?
No, go ahead, and then I'll.
No, and I was going to say, I'm unaware of the problems they're describing with the Wexford to the neighbors. I don't know if that is something that could be addressed through our regulations because it is an older development. What I'm hearing about a drain pipe causing a rut so deep, I know that current regulations don't allow what is it, concentrated flow to discharge to a neighbor's property like that is what it sounds like. So I would defer to our environmental planning staff because that is by no means my area of expertise, different sort of planning. But if if you were legitimately causing issues, I would imagine it.
I would fix it.
Yeah. And it is something that if it were something we could enforce, then we would.
So can I add to that real quick?
Sure.
Your staff at the city is unbelievable. They take our site plans and they beat them to death over and over and over again. And past that, we had to put bonds in place, and the bonds, they have a great ability to extend it and extend it. So the bonds will be there. So to answer your question, if we caused a problem, they wouldn't release the bond. And if I didn't fix it, then I would think you would exercise the bond to fix it yourself. And so
Right. So
there is mechanisms to
you-
fix it.
The developer has skin in the game to make it right.
Okay.
Rachel, I have a question about retention ponds, those stormwater management ponds. So whose responsibility, is it the HOA's responsibility to keep those clean, and who enforces that?
So our Department of Water Resources
Same group.
has staff, yes. So the staff that reviews the plans is housed in community development, but the Water Resources staff is responsible once it's installed to make sure that maintenance occurs according to the stormwater maintenance agreement on schedule and as described in that agreement.
Well, I do think, I applaud the engagement that you make. I think that's something we don't get to see very often.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think your rebuttal to, not really rebuttal, but your answer to some of those questions, it makes a lot of sense seeing it up there. And I think that would be my only question is when those ponds do fill in, because they do. I think we have to be careful too when we have catastrophic events that we can't control. No matter, it wouldn't matter if there's houses back there, we'd still have extreme flooding. See it in Western North Carolina. So, I think it's a good plan. Some of the things that I am concerned about, when there's a question about being an R1 to an R3, I get a lot of feedback from city council, like, why do you keep eroding the R1? But when I look at this map, we have an entire stretch of road that is all R3 in that quarter, almost to Timberlake.
Just approved one to be an R4.
Yeah, so this is not, to me, I don't feel so bad about saying, well, we need to protect R1 because that is a limited, even if people did want to build houses there, no one would, because the cost to develop that into a place that people have house, the land would not be prohibitive in cost.
They are doing that behind Walmart. Actually, there's some almost $600,000 houses going back up there in those neighborhoods that you would never expect. And I toured through them just the other day, and they're selling.
But along Wards Ferry Road, there's also a lot of apartments. And I think this kind of matches the character of what is going on there. I also think it's neat that we see people come from Wexford who actually are not college students. It's like, because that's one of the big concerns we get. We get these dense properties, and I appreciate backing down from the R4, this idea that it is about home ownership. And I get the idea that, hey, I don't want a yard the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't need my acre. I don't need my house, because eventually I want to actually do things other than take care of the bushes and the grass. So I'm supportive of this proposal. I think it's a good one, and I wasn't so supportive of it, but I think it addresses a lot of my concerns.
I've talked to city council members about this stuff also, and maybe part of the reason the question of why we're eroding R1 is important is because we really truly are. When you do that, you create a transient populace. Right now, nearly 60% of Lynchburg is rentals. When you build lower cost, they're not low price, they're just compared to what the market is right now, which is a little insane. they're in the range that they're likely to get snapped up as rentals. And when we do that, we increase the non-stakeholder residency of the city rather than decrease it. And it comes back to the fundamental question, what kind of city do we want to be? Do we want to be a transient city to the counties? Or do we want to be a city that attracts professionals that come to live in the city? And you can say nobody's ever going to build houses on that, but I see it happening right now. I see it happening off downtown. I see it happening over behind Walmart. It can happen. But the more we continue to downgrade, the limited, and as Kevin correctly pointed out, most of the green space, the undeveloped properties in Boonesboro, but you can't get it developed. It's all R1 up there because they know. And if they really believe that it made a difference, they'd let it in there, but they don't. And so we're continuing to chip away and chip away. And eventually the whole lower 2/3 of the city is going to be rental.
Yeah, I just look along that corridor, you know, and the city invested in a 4-lane road through there. They didn't do that on Boonesboro Road. I mean, they built infrastructure on this road, not just to get people in and out of the city fast. So it's really I think the corridor is set up for that. That's when I look at this for the use of land and how it's being used. It makes sense to
I would
me.
argue that Leesville has taken a huge hit over the past few years. It seems like we get a petition on Leesville every other meeting. And-
Yeah, that's true.
And across the board, every time I've supported those petitions is when we started R2 or higher to go higher. And across the board, every time we've started R1, I've been against it. And you mentioned that the city has asked, why are we eroding this? They've gone farther than that. They've told us to stop changing R1 and to protect it. So I think there's a push to protect R1, and I think we can be consistent doing that. Leesville it's growing dramatically, and it's reaching the tipping point. So.
Point of clarity, did we approve on March 13th rezoning from R1 to R4 on 717 and 725?
You can go to the records and look at my vote. I said,
No,
my
I believe,
opinion.
no, 100%. I want to know what we said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's closer in, right? That's near.
So
getting closer to Heritage.
that was a really
Yeah.
odd situation where we had a strip of access for a county development within the city.
Right, that's right.
So I believe it was recommended, and it did ultimately get rezoned. If I can offer kind of the perspective I had on it, informing our recommendation, and of course, that recommendation is take it or leave it for Planning Commission. I mean, that's for you all to decide. But, density where density makes sense, where infrastructure is suitable. I think that's why you're seeing the growth that you have in this area. Leesville Road is a 4-lane road. It's very close to what is likely going to become a pretty major intersection with Leesville Road and Compson Way. That entire area just outside of the city is flagged for heavy commercial growth in Campbell County's future land use and zoning. People want to be near their employment, which the Centra project going in, represents an employment opportunity. It's also services, if they need those services, goods and other things that would come through Campbell County's commercial area. Water and sewer are available to the site. So density where it's logical is kind of how I looked at it in this situation.
So the other thing is changing the flume, right? Is in this from institutional, right? So,
Yes.
so what would be a typical institutional use? That would be, you said a church?
Yes, a church, a school of some sort. I believe it was.
Hospital?
It was, yes, could
Yeah,
be.
medical. Mhm.
Could be. I believe it was it's currently institution because it was under common ownership with the church next door. The parcel was owned by the church.
Can you pull up the flume that's on page 8, it looks like, in the petition? So it's not clear to me. There's the big parcel, there's a big purple, there's a smaller purple to the upper right. What are we actually voting to change on here?
It's
Just that property or the whole?
just that,
Oh, that creek.
just the 750 Leesville property.
So it would remain purple adjacent
That the church is under, it's a separate parcel, and that property is not included. It's the highlighted portion, that kind of aqua.
And the only thing on the neighborhood commercial that would change would again just be 750. There would be the 3 parcels
Yes.
adjacent that would remain.
They would remain, yes.
And of those, some are, yeah, they're a business, yeah.
Sir, what is going to happen with the house that's right where your driveway is going to be? Is that staying?
No, ma'am.
That goes away?
Yes.
Okay.
That's gonna have to go no matter what.
Yeah. That's the only way into the property. So you're concerned about the retention ponds. We rough them in as soon as we start grading, we rough them in and then seed them, try to get them established as quick as possible. So we divert water there to hold it on site. And then at the end, after we get pavement down, we go in and clean out the pond and get the sediment out of it. Now, if we buy nutrient credits, that's one thing. But if we if we do on-site quality, that's when we clean it out and plan all of our stuff to take care of quality. So we shouldn't be catching any sediment as soon as we finish.
Like, to me, in web development apartments, is often my biggest concern, is we see so much runoff from a lot of construction sites, which seem to be mostly apartments.
Right.
And what's the distinction between a right turn lane and a right turn taper?
So,
That was smooth.
I'm sorry, I read it. I don't remember. I didn't see that. It's got to be in there. Thank you.
yeah, so turn lane is a full-on lane. The taper is just some extra space to slow
Sure.
down, slow
Okay.
down as you make the turn.
Wow. I feel like I'm talking to my wife.
Well, as I look at the map and look at the zoning of Leesville Road and what we have voted for in the past, it makes sense to me. And I do agree with Rachel that where density makes sense, that, you know, I would vote for it. I think that having ownership possibilities at affordable, which isn't as affordable as it used to be, but it's certainly affordable compared to some other things. I think those are both positive. I do commend you for, it seems you have gone above and beyond to really meet with the neighbors around you and try to talk to them and address their concerns. And with your experience and seemingly, I mean, I hate to say some developers care more than others, and you know, I mean, I'm not voting on it because you care more. I'm just, it makes me feel a little bit better to support something like this.
Thank you. We, for years, it's, you know, I always say the same thing all the time. We got to build it like I'm going to live there, because you never know, I might have to move in. So if I can live in 800 square feet and be happy, I can certainly live in one of these. And I certainly would build it the way I want to. And I already got the product already standing at the Modern. And selling it in 4 or 5 months, 47 units, you know, at affordable price, if you will. That speaks for volume too, I think.
No, all of the new townhomes that have been built or on Leesville have all sold tremendously well.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a large demand for it.
You, as a first-time home buyer, in my opinion, you have no choice but to buy that. We've got some 3 lots in Farmington that are coming up and Farmington is not necessarily a starter home community, but it's close. Well, you're looking at $600,000 or $700,000 for a house, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2.5 bath. You know, wow.
Yeah.
So the topic mentions the CUP. the actual article of voting does not mention the CUP. It just mentions, no, sorry, it's just written separately.
Yeah,
So-
you've got 3 actions.
So what would it take? Would it require the next level of zoning of residential up to not also require the CUP? It would have to be,
They initially, I think, were going to submit R4 to do townhomes by right without the CUP. However, the narrative says they wanted to take out the possibility of it just being apartments. So they went for the R3 with a conditional use permit for townhomes. It also gives the commission the ability to impose conditions if you feel like there's something specific that needs to be addressed. I will say, at the time of application, and we got the proffer for substantial compliance with the site plan, with the concept plan rather. The additional proffers that Mr. Maddox is referencing have come up since that initial application, and so they provided me with a draft, but they are still working on the wording of some of these, talking about the fence, the additional landscaping, that sort of thing. There's no issue with submitting those later, and I have no doubt it's in his best interest to go ahead and do that. But at this time, the only official proffer that's been submitted is substantial compliance. I just want to be upfront about that.
so
The others are forthcoming.
we would be recommending R3, but the density, because of the CUP, would be equivalent to an R4?
No. So
If I can. The biggest thing is that not only am I open with the neighbors around me, I wanted to be open with the city. As a part of the discussions is I want to come there and build townhouses. I don't want to push an R4 and then let it sit for a year and do an end run on you and come back by right and build apartments. So I thought it was better just to be upfront, like always, and say, this is what I want to do. And the recommendations was that, or the agreement was, if we went R3, but conditional on the site plan substantially like that, then there's no ability to come back later and do something by right.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank
This
you.
is what I want to do, and I'm not trying to do anything underhanded or anything like that.
So
Okay.
the
Thank-
density
thank-
allowed in R3 would be up to 10.89 units per acre, but because of their CUP and the proffer, they are going for about 7.5 units per acre, 88 units over 11.7 acres. So they're below the cap in R3 and definitely below the cap in R4, which is 21 units plus per acre.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Like I said, I feel like the concerns of the neighbors had been addressed well as you could. And I also think you're approachable. You seem like you've worked with neighbors and been approachable. I like the plan. I'm going to make a motion that we recommend approval of rezoning the Flume Amendment and the CUP.
I'll second that.
Can we vote on this, Rachel, as one, or do we need to vote?
You can, unless somebody feels like they want to not, want to split the vote. I mean, if everyone's in agreement that to do,
If we
Split into
wanted to
three.
split, because there's
To
three
take-
different things we're changing.
yeah, to take one.
The proffers that you have just said, what substantial, to adhere substantially or something like that. Is there a concern that the proffers aren't necessarily finalized at this point?
What I have in writing, I'm willing to sign now, but with the neighbors, we've already talked about some stuff that we want to add to it. So I don't mind signing that now, but then have the ability to add or
To add
adjust.
more?
But I think one thing that the city's going to want to kick out, because they don't want to get involved in that. Is that fair? But if you kick it out, I'm still going to do it, and I'll just have a separate agreement with the neighbors.
Any comment on that? Are y'all okay with that? So we have a second,
That's what we're talking about.
we have
Yeah.
a motion on, and a second to accept the petition as written. All in favor? I'm sorry?
Petition for the proffers? Or just the whole?
For the
The
flume
package, the three.
rezoning and conditional use
Flume,
permit.
rezoning and CUP.
Yeah, the CUP has the condition of the proffers. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So that's 1, 2, 3. Did you 4?
4-2.
4-2.
Yeah.
Yep, so the motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Good luck at
I'll make you
City
proud.
Council.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
And,
Andy.
I'll continue to work with the neighbors, and I'll make sure that we get information to you guys about the water and we'll address the concerns. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other business?
No, none from staff.
Okay, and do we have a meeting, anything on the agenda for our next meeting, Rachel?
October 23rd, yes, you should have an item.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right, so next meeting, October 23rd, and if there's no other business, do I have a motion for
I'll make a motion.
adjourn? Second? All in favor? Say aye.